Hello and welcome to Racers Without Border International. We are here today for round 4 of Constructors Championship races 7 and 8 from Kialami. My name is Racer Soul and today I'll be commentating for you together with my co-commentator, the Chief.
Yeah, hello.
We're just about 5-6 minutes away from the end of qualifying for today's two races. And it's like we never left from the previous race. Radek Shula again on pole position for the first race, followed by Christopher Streppen and Emma Plate in third. Track seems to be a little bit wet from all of the rain that has been falling down since practice. So a little bit of handful today for the drivers. But it will be a nice test of their skill on this South African circuit.
Yeah, I definitely agree. As some of you who are watching might know, I was commentating on the Saturday GT series with James, and when we saw these guys battling out in the wet, especially in the GT4 cars, it is the great equalizer, as they do say, and it's going to be some properly hefty action. Just hoping it's going to be clean, but well, I'm sure you're like me, Racer. As soon as we see a bit of rubbing, it's always great for us, but a headache for the stewards.
Well, hopefully the drivers won't be giving them too much of a headache for the day's race. But they certainly won't be easy on them. The circuit as it is does not allow for many mistakes. There's grass and gravel waiting for you on every bit of it. And also overtaking opportunities are not plentiful here. You can get around into turn 1 and maybe into the hairpin at the back of the circuit, but other than that, you will have to be really creative and mindful of your opponents. If you try to make an overtake, there will be lots of commitment and also cooperation required from the other driver. But let's recap ourselves the standings after previous event. As you currently know, Radek Shula in the Mercedes is in the lead of the championship. He has managed to win all the races bar one and currently holds nice 60-point lead ahead of Christopher Streppen and another 20 points down to Samuel Kruger, followed by Emma Plate. It will be a tough task for everyone to climb the ladder that Shula has given them, but maybe the wet conditions might favor some of the drivers. Also looking at the main part of this series being it Constructors Championship, it's the constructor points. And it is still the Mercedes leading ahead of Audi and Chevrolet. Mercedes currently on 1,140 points. Audi on 1,103 and Chevrolet on just 1,071. Other than that, everybody is under 800 points. So we can see quite a gap for the top 3 Constructors Championships.
Yeah, it seems like an uphill battle for McLaren in last place in terms of the constructors. They're on 480 and they're chasing Maserati with 522 points. But from what I'm seeing right now, it seems like McLaren's been having issues with some of their drivers leaving. Unfortunately, I was one of them having to leave. But yeah, it's Ben Cobby at the moment who's not set a time at the moment. He's probably wondering where his other fellow McLaren drivers are, but it's an uphill struggle for Cobby to try and keep some dignity for McLaren, but I'm sure he'll do perfectly well out there on track. But yeah, Maserati, Porsche, Ginetta, BMW, is so close between those guys. It's going to be a really good battle for the mid-pack to try and get into P4 and try and take it back from Alpine.
Well, it's not only on how fast you are, it's also how fast are your teammates and how many of them you have. Because you said people leaving for reasons that are maybe sometimes out of their hands. And Maserati was a manufacturer that had just 2 cars at the start of the season between them. One of them being here Gianni Lenz and the other one Martin Schaefer. But they have found a couple of new drivers before the previous event, and all of a sudden that is big gaining points because it's the top 3 from each of the race that score points towards the constructors. So it's very important to have somebody driving for your brand. But maybe McLaren will find some new talented or fast drivers, or doesn't even have to be fast, but find some drivers who are going to score points. But looking at Maserati, I don't think Porsche and Ginetta and even BMW, they are not comfortable in their positions in the championship. Martin Schaefer is a really fast driver, currently P6 in the championship. In what is Maserati sometimes renowned as a not favorable car. We shall see what the race is going to hold for us. But before the race, we need to look at the qualifying. We are currently watching on Emil Plate, who is on his final lap. There is a slight gain, yes, over Radek Šula, but will it be enough? Radek being on 155.2, Emil will need about 3 tenths, currently on 155.5, going into the final corner. Let's see, can he dislodge the current dominator, that is Radek Šula, from the pole position?
If it is, it's going to be a very big ask, but it doesn't look like he's managed to do it. Radek Šula, we've seen him in the past. He's an extremely quick driver, but we've still got Kruger out on track, as you see on screen, and Verstappen is also out on track as well. So they've still got time to try and knock him down, but those two are so close together for the P3 position.
But you can see Radek Šula, he was in the pit lane during the most part of this qualifying, so I would say he's pretty comfortable with his lap. He has managed to put, but yeah, there are still some drivers who are trying to chase him, Samuel Kruger being one of them. But also we saw Christopher Streppen going into the pit lane, so he also realized the lap was not going to be it. Let's see if Samuel can give us a surprise. We saw all of these drivers battling it out together with Aaron Arede, Shimon Koutnik in the race before at Misano. Also fighting between them. And these being the 3 prominent brands, Audi, Mercedes, Chevrolet. Oh, taking lots of curb is Samuel Kruger, real commitment through that corner. You have to be watching that curve because it can just spat you out into the gravel. You can catch it, but it's not advisable. So all the line, Samuel Kruger, can he jump up anywhere? No, it's just 155.9. Not even a tenth behind Christopher Streppen. But you can see that Radek Šula is such a big margin over everyone. It's over a second to his countryman and compatriot Shimon Koutnik in what is P7. So we shall see if we have Lewis Hamilton 2.0 rising from this grid of drivers.
Yeah, I think today, especially with the big difference in pace that we've seen on the timing screens, there's going to be such a massive it all determines and depends on whether Radek Šula can actually pass the traffic, because it's not just up to his performance, it's also about making sure he can make those passes safely, and if the back markers will let him through, because I think we're going to see a lot of lap traffic here today.
Yeah, but it will also be about the consistency. With it being a wet race, as we can see, it's going to be raining throughout most of it. And I think the rain is not thinking about leaving anytime soon. It will be also matter if you keep it on a track, because the wheel just off the line on the curb or grass even slightly can result in maybe a spin, but also a trip to the wall. And walls are rather close at some parts of this track.
Yeah, you've also got Crocodile as well with the that slight right kink that they're pointing right at right now. It's such a tricky corner. If you take too much sausage curb on the right, it spits you out on the gravel on the other side. And we've seen lots of drivers in other leagues they always get caught out by it. But it seems like the Chevrolets, they can take so much sausage curb. It doesn't seem like it fazed them. So it'll be interesting to see if Verstappen can close the gap down to Šula by taking advantage of the Chevy's ability to just knock through curbs and not be fazed by them.
We are currently looking through the grid, looking on all of the different designs and desires of our drivers. We can still see Emil Sieblom being what looks to be the sole BMW on our grid, which, as we pointed out, also with McLaren is not going to help him. Oh no, my bad. He has a teammate that I didn't notice, Kasper Nielsen, all the way down in P25. But still, two drivers. I think BMW will have to be looking back towards the Maseratis.
Yeah, it's kind of it's really weird seeing very few BMWs. It's a very popular GT4 car. It's so quick on a straight line. It's got a similar top speed to some of the GT3 cars as well. So it's a really, really quick car, and we've seen it in the past at Bathurst. It's not a slouch, and it will go, but it is weird to see so few drivers. And hopefully, with the driver swaps that come up, and I think it's for the next round, we'll see some fresh blood in the cars, or even some people from the other series having time to put in practice. But that's them now heading down towards the start line.
So our top 10 quickly before we start. Radek Šula in P1 and Emo played beside him. Then Christopher Streppen, Simon Kruger, Aaron Ariday, James Lacey, Stefan Kotnik, Daniel Wilk, Daniel Bannett and Jakub Tarantino being your top 10 for the start. So we are going out of the final corner. We can already see Šula trying to go out, but Late is quite far ahead of him. We'll have to get in line to avoid the penalty. So we are awaiting the green flag. Which has now dropped, and cars are moving. We are racing here at Kialam. It's a great start from Emo Plate, who has managed to just bolt from P2 and is already ahead of Radek Šula into turn 1, although Šula has the inside line. But I don't think he's going to try, only keep the second place, does not try anything wild, as we already have 3 wide through the corners. And there is a little bit of contact. Aston Martin is spinning around in the background, managed to collect one of the Audis, but it looks like they've gotten through without any major troubles in the back. Aston Martin looking to be Damien Wilk, probably. Yeah, P11 sideways out of turn 1. Luckily, he did not collect anybody else with him, and everyone is going in the correct way. But wild start from what we had. Meanwhile, Emo Plate already being chased a little bit by Radek Šula, who is not going to be happy about that start. It looked really on the line from Emo Plate, who was wide for Šula. Emo Plate was looking to be almost ahead of Radek Šula at the starting line. I'm not sure what your view was on that.
Well, I've been looking further back in the grid, and Horgan is doing an excellent job trying to hold up for number 9 cars, so he's doing a fantastic job so far. But yeah, it looks like it was Van Kamen and Xavier Eugenie who unfortunately struck out at the start of a race and ended up looked like they ended up having kind of being off the road, which isn't what you want. But knowing those two, they will be fighting tooth and claw to get further back up the grid. But yeah, we're seeing lots of cars going wide. People are still trying to find their place in the train. And yeah, the race isn't over, and it's only lap 1. There's still plenty of drama to go ahead.
Plenty of drama as well at the see Javier again trying to go down the inside of Jonas Dedenne is in front of him. And after what was a little bit of contact probably in lap 1, he is still in the pack, so not far behind everyone. He is managing to consolidate and now down the inside into turn 1 on the Dedenne. Doesn't look like he has the position yet. Looking to maybe go around into the next corners and try a different line. As you can see, the Dedenne is being slowed down by another Porsche. Oh, there was a little bit of contact between them.
Yeah, that looked like a case of not quite checking your mirrors, which is super unfortunate, but it happens, and that's for the stewards to decide what happens if they end up reporting it. But yeah, further up the grid, Schaefer's currently with a pack of cars. They've got Kai Banks at the front of that train, and that train is it just looks like Kai Banks is trying desperately to try and hold them on, but he's doing a great job trying to hold off Mad Al. But yeah, you can see on screen now that's such a long train, and behind Schaefer he's even got Arjona and Allegria behind him, sniffing at him as well. So it's going to be a long time coming for that, and they're going to be begging for pit stops to try and spread out that train.
But it must have been a really bad start for Martin Schaefer. He was starting up in P7 and dropping down to P16. Maybe the Maserati kicking in without any traction control, as we see the Alpine behind him going a little bit wide, managed to give his position. But then Martin Schaefer, the Maserati does not have any assistance, so maybe on the start did not have enough grip on the wet track. And certainly ABS or traction control would come in handy in these conditions. But knowing him, he is fast, he is consistent, so maybe he will be able to gain some positions during the race, maybe even during the pit cycle.
Yeah, it looks like Schuller is well up front. He's lost the place to Emo Plates. He's sitting in P2. But it's not over for Schuller because he's also got Christoph Verstappen behind him, trying to find a way past as well. So I wonder if they're going to sit tight, try and pull a gap, and then have a battle towards the end for top 3 positions. But Samuel Kruger, he's still holding on to P4 as well, trying to close up the gap to Christoph Verstappen in P3. So it's not over for those guys. James Lacey also trying to catch up as well with Aaron Araday behind. So these guys, they're not going anywhere. They're still going to be battling it out. But yeah, it's going to be a long ask for them.
Meanwhile, looking on Stepan Kotnik, defending himself from Jakub Tarantino. Jakub being one of our big jumpers in previous race, managing to gain 13 positions from his starting position, which in grid is this competitive and this big, you can say it's quite a big achievement. Passing 13 drivers and managing every move cleanly. But talking about the Radek Šula, who has managed to find himself in P1, a mistake from Emo Plate we must have missed somehow, as we are looking from the replay. Yeah, just outbroke himself into the hairpin in the back of the circuit. And this might be the important part of this race, because Radek Šula, he maybe was looking to stand behind Emo Plate. He just following his life. Since the championship to think about, there is nothing to rush yet. He has quite a big of a gap. But now maybe it's the time where he can stretch the legs from the Mercedes and just dive off from everyone. That does not seem like it has happened yet. On the other hand, it's Christoph Verstappen. It's really close behind that Mercedes. And we saw them all fighting even in the previous race. In race 1, Verstappen was somehow just in the 2 seconds behind Šula and managed to close him down in the final stages, but there was the unfortunate drive-through penalty that happened for Verstappen. And also the same happened in race 2, where he was not able to get by Radek Šula. So this is just like deja vu for him, yet again looking at the back of the Mercedes. Maybe he has managed to think of something during the week to get by on his Czech opponent.
Yeah, I'm currently looking at Clinch on Trebek, and Clinch, these guys, Clinch is not wanting to give a single foot of space to Trebek. He's using as much as he can in terms of defense, and these guys, they're going at it through turn 5 and turn 6. So it looks like Clinch is managing to pull a gap to Trebek now, but he's going to want to hang on to the tail of Damien, and those two need to work together and to try and catch up to Schoblom up ahead. But he's fighting Allegria. It's going to be a tough call for those guys to battle it out and try and keep it clean. But you can see right now the BMW and the Alpine battling it out now with Nielsen and Arjona going down in towards, I can't remember the turn names, but heading up towards Crocodiles now. So this is going to be such a tight battle for those guys. But yeah, we're seeing everyone all over the place. The wet conditions are not helping anyone, especially the Maseratis, who, as you say, They don't have any driver assist whatsoever, so big balls for those guys as they're trying to do everything. But we're seeing now Burley just getting rid of his stop-go 30-second there, the speeding in the pit lane from earlier. But yeah, it's a really close race so far with Radek Schiller up ahead with Christopher Streppen. So these guys, those two, they're going to want to battle out, but this could play into the favour of Emo Plates, he's going to hope that those two crash. Because if those two tap each other, they will go off, and that gives Emo Plates an easy P1.
And how likely is that? Because now Radek Schula and Christopher Streppen, they are at the top of the driving experience that we can have, both knowing what it is to be a race driver, so you expect them to keep it clean, but yeah, even the master can miss his point. As you can see, Verstappen just so close onto the back of the Mercedes, looking to the inside line for the hairpin, but in dry conditions, maybe you could try and dive down the inside, but in these conditions, it's so easy to block a wheel, just skate off into the gravel. So I think Verstappen will be just trying to intimidate Radek Schula, trying to make him think more about the car behind and what is happening in front of him, and force a mistake. And this is one of the racing crafts that you have to somehow develop, forcing the other driver to think about you rather than think about what he's doing.
Yeah, when it comes to defending and attacking, the longer that a car's stuck behind you, the more they learn where you're going to defend, where you're strong, where you're weak. But it's the same for the guy defending. They're going to be thinking about, okay, I can see that he's strong here, he's going to probably attack here, and that's why we usually see battles ending, like really long battles ending with unfortunate contact between two drivers, because they just end up coming to the same conclusion that he's going to defend and attack here, and they end up smacking into each other, which is unfortunate. We don't want to see that, but it's what usually happens. But hopefully, we've seen before with Streppen and Schiller, they are masterclass in terms of overtaking and defending. They have really good racecraft. But yeah, that's not going to stop Plate from wishing that something will happen between them and you can take full advantage.
Yeah. If you could choose from these two, in whose position would you rather be? Would you rather be defending as Schula, or are you the one who is gonna be who will want to be on the attack?
I much prefer defending. Defending, you have the choice. You can make the other person in front. You can choose what line they take. You can choose when they're going to attack. You just have to position your car in the correct place. You want to put your car exactly where they want to put it, put their own car. So it's all about not quite blocking, but some person who's trying to get away with it is Tarantino on Kudnik, but he's going to have to run now towards the down towards turn. Oh, I need to learn these turn names, but yeah, they're heading now down towards the 90-degree right, and this corner here is so good for defending and attacking because there's so many different lines you can take, and it sets you up for crocodiles. But you need to go through crocodiles single file, otherwise someone's ending up in the gravel.
So Tarantino thinking about going around the outside, but GT4s, they do not have the downforce. He tries to go around the outside to the final corner, but outbrakes himself. That's what I'm talking about. In the dry, it might have been okay, but in the wet, there is not enough grip on the tires. You are sliding around from side to side and just snatch a wheel. But it's better to snatch a wheel when you are trying to go around the outside than the inside, and both of you will end up out of the track.
Yeah,
Still trying to learn something new about Alex Schula, although he might know the back of that Mercedes like his hand at this point.
Got Kai Banks as well fighting Phil Varley. Those two are going right at it, side by side all the way through. They've been side by side since turn 1, but it looks like Kai Banks has got the move done and dusted finally. But that Alpine, it surprised a lot of people, I think, with it's just so lightweight, and it seems to be strong in all kinds of areas. But for Ginetta, that's going to be an absolute monster today. That's going to be amazing, given the fact that it's so lightweight. It's not even a road car, to be honest. It's pretty much a race car built up, whereas other cars, they're pretty much road cars that have been changed into race cars. Ginetta is a race car through and through, and it's going to be absolutely dominant in the wet, I think. But yeah, the power of the Audis, the Chevys, the Mercs, they're just going to pull away, I think, on the straight.
Yes, we are looking on the marvel that is the Italian engineering of Maserati. We see a little bit of mistake from Mad Al, dipping a wheel down into the gravel. The Martin Schaefer just getting bigger and bigger from the point of view. Menacingly looking on to Mad Al. Mad Al is managing to keep his position for now as he again goes a little bit wide. And this just gives the opportunity. Martin Schaefer going through the inside into the crocodiles, and Mad Al is forced wide. There is no way he's gonna hang on to that position. And Schaefer is slowly starting to climb back to where he was. But now 2.5 second gap to the back in front of him. Time to just put the head down and start hot lapping. Well, nothing new at the front. Looks like Christopher Verstappen has calmed down a little bit from hassling Radek Šula, and is now just looking at if he can eke out his stint a little bit longer, maybe or even shorter, trying to do the overtake not on a track but in the pit lane. You know,
Yes.
Stefanko is still continuing his fight with Tarantino. Tarantino trying to go around the outside in the long right hand and almost managing to do it, but Courtney just showed him the door and closed it right on the exit of the corner. You can see Tarantino going wild also in the exit of the corner, trying to use every little part of the circuit that has a little bit of grip. And Tarantino has been showing speed. He is faster than Shimon Koenig, but there's just not been any way around. Maybe on the outside, but no, same as Emo plays. Not being able to stop the car into the corner. And the battle resumes.
This is great news for Araday. Araday has now got a 7-second gap to his teammate, who is Sebastian Kudnik. So this is perfect for him in his championship battle because it gives him a lot more room and a lot more space to try and get those points. So he just needs to keep driving just keep driving. But yeah, we've got Schaublom, who's still under attack from the two BMWs. But yeah, that's nothing on Tarantino hounding the back of Kutnik constantly. Kutnik's doing the perfect job. He's putting the car exactly where Tarantino wants to go. So this is absolute masterclass in defending from these two, from Kutnik, sorry. But Tarantino, he's going to go for the outside into turn one. So it's going to be interesting because he's going to have the inside for Juxki's sweep. But yeah, it looks like Kutnik's covered him off quite well.
Although it looks like Stepan has managed to miscalculate his braking point. This gives the outside of this corner to the Audi of Tarantino, but he will have inside for the next corner. And a little bit of contact as Koenig was trying to maybe do a switchback line through the corner. But Tarantino has managed to do the job. He finally passed the Mercedes driver, and now it's time to close down Aaron Eriday. But as you said, it's 10 seconds. What is being shown, around 8 to 10 seconds. So Tarantino has 30 minutes to gain on the Mercedes in front of him, but also like Aaron Eriday is not doing his best laps as James Lacey is being the one who is helping him off. As we can see, Eriday hustling and breaking himself as well there. James Lacey, we did not see up here in the previous race. Porsche driver, and it is quite a welcome change to what we have on the front in previous race, which was just a domination between Mercedes and Audi with just Christopher Verstappen thrown in for the good measure. But James Lacey may be looking to help Porsche in the Constructors Championship. They're currently just third from last, but with Ginetta and BMW in front of them being down in current race, Samuel Bennett being the highest ranked Ginetta in this race in P11, so 6 places behind James Lacey. But there are 3 Ginettas racing compared to just what looks to be the sole Porsche of James.
Yeah, it's a tough one for James, but he's doing an absolute phenomenal job. He's just pushing as hard as he can, trying to keep Araday behind. But that's good news for Tarantino, as that will give him an easier job to try and catch up to Araday, as Lacey and those two will be fighting it out. But yeah, Verstappen's still hounding the back of Schuller, and of course Emma Plate's caught up as well to Verstappen. So he's got to overtake whilst defending at the same time. It's a tough call for that. It's a really big job.
Oh, that's gonna be the worst position you can be in. We said you would rather be the one defending, same would be for me, but I don't have Christopher Verstappen. This is the worst position you can find yourself. If you don't move on fast enough, the driver behind is eventually just going to get over you, because you just cannot defend and attack both at the same time. You need to choose your positioning so correctly at this point, because a failed overtake will just mean that you lose position to the car behind. As we saw Samuel Kruger going a bit wide on the exit, which looked to just be a brief movement of oversteer. But we also saw half a lap ago that Christopher Verstappen was almost by Radek Šula. We saw what looked to be an Alpine spinning around in the back of the ground there. Meanwhile, Christopher Verstappen, just look at how close he is, basically almost pushing Radek Šula on the edge of the corner. And I think Radek Šula will have to start his defense now. Going down to the inside, Verstappen the outside line to turn one. Hard braking point. Šula will be trying to not do the same thing as his teammate did a few laps before. But now Verstappen trying to go down inside, maybe a scary place to try to move, but you can scare your opponent to give you a little bit more space. But Christoph, his consistency was a little bit of his weakness with getting penalties or just small mistakes that have cost him valuable positions in previous races. You can see him go wide here and there. He will have to mitigate those mistakes and just try to not get penalties where it is basically unforced.
Yeah, Verstappen's going to have to try something in his repertoire, because Radek Šula, he knows how to defend, and he's going to be anticipating his lines. And I'm afraid, I'm really worried right now that Verstappen's been stuck behind Šula too long. I wonder if he's shown all he's got to try and get past. And I hate to say it, because it's something that I would really not want to do, but I'd start considering an early pit stop and try and get an undercut, get into some fresh air, and just go for it and try and undercut him that way, because he's not going to get past Šula. We can see he's not going down without a fight.
But where are we going to find fresh air in this? Just looking at several Bennett, Simon Bennett trying to go down the inside of Kai Banks, but with the low grip there is in that corner in a GT4, it's going to be hard. Maybe going around the outside, but yeah, still no grip. And Verstappen, I would be looking maybe at trying to make this stint as long as possible. Oh, Kai Banks going wild over the curbs. And into the pit lane, Simon Bennett, what are you trying, my mate? I think he'll be lucky if he didn't speed in the pit lane.
There we go.
We call that. That's. Oh yeah, that. I think that was game just automatically dropping him into the position. As we see someone letting the leaders by going onto the grass. Pit stops are starting to happen. Drivers will be looking to not replicate Simon's shenanigans in the pit lane. He will not thank us for showing that, I'm sure. But meanwhile, Christopher Verstappen, as I said, I would be looking at trying to make it longer, this thing, because little bit of mistake and almost running into the wall, blocking Emo Plate in the process. This has lost him lots of time, and Radek Šula, this is something he has been waiting for, a little bit of clear air, and Emo Plate forcing Verstappen into something. Verstappen now he has to go long. If he pits now, there is a high chance he drops into a pack, and if you're going to be stuck behind a car that is not going to stop for just 2 laps, that's all the driver in front needs to just get the gap to 2 seconds.
Yeah, there's about half the grid have pitted, so it kind of makes it's very clear of a track relatively, because there'll be a lot of cars that are kind of half a lap down compared to where they wouldn't have been. But we're seeing cars getting lapped left, right, and centre right now, which it's not a great time when you're having to lap traffic. So that just opens you up to being taken out. But for Nielsen, it looks like he's still under attack from Phil Varley, which is going to be quite nasty for Phil, because Varley's already done his pit stop, and Nielsen, he's effectively a lapped car for him, but he doesn't have any obligation to move out of the way for Phil. So Varley's effectively being held up by a car that doesn't need to hold him up. But we see Nielsen going to the pits there, so that's given Phil another run at going for trying to catch up to the cars ahead.
But this is also important decision making as the car that is behind. What are you going to do? Because you don't know if the car in front is going to pit this lap, or is he going to stay out for 3 more laps? Do I try to make a move now and risk a little bit of time gain over maybe a collision or just a bigger time loss? But this is something that is being really heavily analyzed when it comes to big events and real life races. You see teams just crunching numbers and looking for the spot to find a good pit window. And sometimes you see it pay off, sometimes you see it just completely fail. But Phil Varley getting a bit lucky maybe this time with the car that was in front of him going to the pit lane. And now looking onto Van Kamen and a little bit wide, fighting with Claudio Algueria and Simon Trebek. Algueria managing to get by Van Kamen, and Trebek will be looking to do the same as he goes around the outside into what is turn 4? Probably, is it Sunset turn, I think? Yeah, I still haven't managed to learn all the corner names as well for the track.
Yeah, so I'm coming up to the S's now, but you can see the damage on the front of Van Kamen, and even though these cars aren't massively aero dependent, it still affects the balance of the car, and he's going to be struggling, especially with no TC and ABS compared to the car of Damien behind him, who's also being followed by our joiner as well. So it's a really tough situation for those guys, for Van Kamen to try and fight Damien as long as he can. But Van Kamen hasn't pitted, and this is what I said earlier, there's no obligation for Van Kamen to get out of the way for Damien. He can stay there for as long as he likes. So effectively, Damien's being held up, like I said earlier, by a lapped car effectively, but there's no obligation for him to move.
But also you have to think as Van Kamen, do I want to fight these guys? Because they are going to get by as he goes into the pit lane. They will pass me when I go into the pit, so you need to think, how do I do this without losing the smallest amount of time?
Yeah, it's a really tough one.
Albert Ariona here for the Alpine. We saw some Alpine spinning around, possibly Albert or Phil. Meanwhile, it looks like the gaps have stabilized at the front. Christopher Streppen managing to jump a little bit. As he goes for early stop. Okay, that's some tactics, maybe. Also, Samuel Kruger follows into the pit lane. That might be a tactic to deploy. Never thought of that, but have been a victim to not spotting the braking board into the pit lane. A really short pit stop for Christopher Streppen. Let's see where he is going to fill out compared to other drivers around him.
Yeah, that must be a splash and dash, a very quick pit stop, because that was exceptionally quick, phenomenal work from Christoph, because he's still coming out ahead of with a bigger gap to Samuel Kruger. I'm losing the ability to speak there. But yeah, Schuller is still going, and he's still got MO plate behind him.
It looks like Christopher Verstappen has managed to find himself a little bit of free space. James Lacey looking, there he is about 10 seconds in front. As we all have an unfortunate event, Jakub Tarantino being the biggest gainer from the previous race, managing to get himself the stop and go penalty after his pit stop. So from a hero to a big zero probably for him with points for this race. Well, here's Alex Schiller. If he decides to respond to the Chevrolet, we only try to make this stint as long as possible. There is a lot of traffic in front of him, so that might be part of his decision making, or just getting out of their way. But no, he decides to go for one more, and this might be something that hurts him in the long term. Even though the drivers might get out of the way, you still lose a little bit of time, at least mentally. Meanwhile, Gianni Lenz to his usual antics and with a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but for Schiller, that's the absolute last lap he can do. Because if he goes out for another lap after this one, that's him outside the pit window, so he has to pit now this lap. But yeah, we see MO plate going in. So it'll be interesting to see where he comes out relative to Radek when Radek goes in. To see if he's actually gained any plane at any time.
Fighting Verstappen before. So as he is coming out, looks like Christoph has managed to get by, yeah. He is coming into turn 3 and there is a plate just following behind. It looks to be about 3-ish seconds of a gap, so I think Verstappen has managed to gain. As you can see, that's Samuel Kruger now hustling his brand mate. So yeah, it looks like the early pit stop is the way to go to gain time. And maybe it's something that Shula has noticed and is just trying to go as long as then possible to maybe have an advantage for the rest of the race, but I'm not sure that the drivers are changing tires during the pit stop.
Yeah, it'll be. It's good that MO Plate and Samuel Kruger are together though, because they can kind of work together to try and close the gap to Verstappen, and they don't have to worry about passing each other. They just have to close up that 4-second gap, and there's 19 minutes left on the clock, so they've still got plenty of time to navigate through traffic to try and catch up. But yeah, Daniel Barnett's still fighting with Kai Banks. This will be a good one for those two. But it'll be interesting to see if Maddow has enough time to get into the pits, which it looks like he will, with 1 minute 30 left. But there goes Schiller into the pits.
Yeah, here is our leader. It will be interesting. Verstappen was about 1.5 seconds when Verstappen came into the pit lane. You can see a quick stop, just a splash of fuel for Schula. On the exit of the pit lane, and here is Verstappen on the pit straight. Let's see from his view, you can see there Schula on the left hand side. He has to be wary of the pit line. The white line is on the exit, and we can see Verstappen. He is going to get into the lead.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I don't know how he's managed to make up that time. Navigating traffic while Radek was still out on track, but that's phenomenal for Verstappen to get past. That's brilliant strategy work at play there.
Yeah, so the strategy that I was implying might be the way to go has actually turned out as the worst decision. Probably why I'm sitting here and talking about it, and these guys are actually practicing strategy. So, change in the lead. Christopher Verstappen finally managing something he has not been able to do in past 2 races. Now it's just a matter of holding on to the lead. He has been showing us that he is fast and that he maybe has the pace over Schula, so now it's time to deploy this. Oh, Schula going wide onto the grass and the gravel, almost spinning the car around. So you can see he is not happy about losing the first place. He's pushing the Mercedes as much as he can, but these are the moments where you need to calm yourself down and think about the big picture that is the championship. You have a big gap, and it would be foolish to just throw it all away for one race.
Yeah, he needs to cool down. He needs to kind of think about the bigger picture, as you say, because he's got such a big lead over Christoph right now. And yeah, it could be bigger if he gets P1, but what happens if he accidentally bins it trying to keep up with the strip and then ends up going down to P20? It's not worth the risk, I'd say, but these guys, they'll have their own priorities. And, you know, I guess if you're not going for a race win, is there any point in you still racing?
As for some wise men, for some fools, said if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver. But I think as a racing driver, you need to also know what fight to pick and what fight to not pick. As we see, a fight between Simon Trebek and Damien Wilkes, making a little bit of mistake in the highlight painted Ginetta. Going wide in the hairpin, we saw many drivers already doing that. Just freebie for Damien Wilk getting by the driver. And also Kasper Nielsen and Alexander Wiech locked in a fight for what is P19. Wiech trying to go around the outside on approach to the... what was it? The Crocodiles. Yeah, the Crocodiles.
Yep, Fruchita and Valby-Vem. I don't know if I talk about Valby-Vem coming up to Ingwe right now. So, yeah, phenomenal move from Damien as well. He's still under attack from Trebek as they go past the lapped car of Burley, it looks like. But phenomenal switchback. It's almost, well, I'm assuming he planned it. He'll probably say he planned it if he gets asked. But that's absolutely phenomenal stuff from Damien to set it up and get the move done. But Trebek did not make it easy for Damien. He really did hold in there.
Anything you do, it's always planned. You never just happen to do it by accident. That's the racing driver. Well, Kai Banks is had quite raced under the radar. He managed to slip himself up into P10. Still locked in a fight with Daniel Barnett, and Martin Chambers also managed to regain what he lost before. Last time we saw him, he was around P14, and after the pit stops, you can see he climbed up into P9, currently chasing the out of Phil Varley. And we saw Martin Schaefer having sometimes weaker first stint, but during the pit cycle, he's always somehow managed to get into the top 10, or if not inside of it, then he was really close on the outskirts of the 10th place. Currently just carrying the Italian brand on his shoulders.
Yeah, I'm absolutely amazed by Schaefer right now to pull that car up into P9 in the wet conditions. And even for, like, you can see the other Maseratis, they are struggling because these are properly tough conditions. But we've got Emil's dad as well in P29 in the 555 Maserati in P29, and I mean, for me, I'd be struggling to keep the car out of a wall. I hate that Maserati with a passion. It's so it's the worst nightmare. I need traction control. I need ABS. So fair play to those guys for still sticking at it in the wet. But yeah, I mean, there's another race after this. It's 20 minutes, so it's a sprint race, but still, well done to Mats and Van Kamen for keeping it going. So that is tough order to do in those Maseratis.
Yeah, I've been racing against Martin Schaefer for what is half a year now. Not the best fun when he gets past you and drives off into the sunset.
Yeah.
But you need alien friends, don't you? Just people who are able to carry you during the racing.
Yeah, it's always good to have. Well, you need a challenge, otherwise there's no point in driving because then you're just doing laps. So you may as well be driving on a time trial. But these guys, it's properly good racing between everyone, and the best thing about it, it's all gentlemanly. So even if there is an incident, 99% of the time, they'll wait for you to catch up if they think it's their fault or if they had anything to do with it, which is absolutely amazing. So you don't really get that in most online public lobbies, so it's absolutely brilliant. You don't have any malicious stuff here, but someone who might be feeling a little malicious is Kai Banks trying to hold off Daniel Barnett behind. Kai Banks, he's still pushing, but that is a lapped McLaren in front of him, so I'm sure Kai is busy screaming at his wheel right now, telling that McLaren to move out of the way, but hopefully he will in a sec.
As another wise man once said, come on, get that McLaren out of the way. That's exactly what Kai Banks has managed to do, get the McLaren in between himself and Daniel Barnett. But looks like Barnett is going to make a really fast process off of the McLaren and Kai Banks. Maybe I've just been hoping that he will get a little bit of downtime, a bit of calm period, but no, Barnett is looking to be even stronger than he was before. Really close behind the Chevrolet driver.
I mean, I'm looking at the delta right now. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm looking at the delta right now. And between Barnett and Mad Al going through sector 1, there was a 2-second gap. And that gap's dropping as we speak. That's dropping down to about, it looks like 1.2 at this rate. So, yeah, it's not good news for those guys. That McLaren's kind of thrown a spanner into the works for them. And I think the person who's won out of this is Barnett. Barnett's basically caught up right to the back of them, and Mad Al's gaining, and Kai's going to be sitting there being like, what the fuck? Like, what was going on with that? I was hoping to have an easy P10, but no, Barnett's going to be fighting to the end for that. But we've still got Nielsen and Veach still going at it for P20 to get into that 20th position. Tarantino, he's kind of run off ahead a little bit, so he's got a nice gap of about 4.5 seconds. But Veach, he's still under attack from Nielsen all the way through.
Yeah, Alexander has managed to get past Nielsen, but looks like he is not able to shake him off yet. Nielsen currently hanging on to the Chevrolet. Yeah, Tarantino, those 5-10 seconds in front after the drive-through, or what is the stop and go that it was, Valvier outbreaking himself. It gives the sniff to Nielsen, but not enough for opportunities. Both of them wild over that curve. Curve is really the scariest part of this entire circuit, because you have to get so close to it, but not touch.
Yeah, you can.
Stepan Koutnik was closing down on Aaron Ariday, but currently being chased by Phil Varley.
Yeah, it's a very big, it's a nice space for Sebastian Koutnik's in right now, because he's currently, the only people around him are pretty much back markers. He's just, that's Mats Sjöblom behind him, and Van Kamen ahead of him, so he's kind of in a nice spot, but you can see the gap between Radek Schuller and Verstappen. That's closed down from a second in the last sector down to 0.5 seconds as they cross the start-finish line. So Radek is still a man with a mission. He still smells the blood and wants a taste of P1 and try and get it back off Verstappen, but going to be a tool for that, because now Verstappen's going to be thinking, you know what, it's your turn to sit behind me. I sat behind you for half a race, now it's your turn.
Well, Shula has not had to use much of his attacking arsenal during the races, so maybe there is something he has in store for us. Some saved power. Let's see. Certainly will be thinking about getting past Verstappen. Obviously, as every driver, you think about what is going on, but you want to win. You know you can. It's just a matter of taking it from the other person that also thinks he can. Other than that, Emma Plate, he has dropped off slightly after the pit cycle. They have managed to build a gap on Samuel Kruger, who was really close behind him, almost attacking for position. And also James Lacey, under the radar, quite calm race. Maybe a little bit too calm, too far from anyone in front of him, anyone behind him. Although Aaron Ariday is onlooking. Just those 2 seconds behind. Looks like he has the pace and is slowly catching down the Porsche.
Yeah, phenomenal work from James to go out there and go for it. He's doing really well, especially in that rear engine Porsche, which is just going to absolutely suck in this weather. It's either going to pendulum or it's going to be really well planted. It just depends on their setup. But yeah, James, he looks comfortable for now, but he needs to be careful because Araday is catching, especially as Horgan in that Mercedes, that was a lapped car behind. You can see the red Merc behind Aaron Araday. He didn't hold up James, but he definitely was not making it easy for him to pass him as a lapped car. So that's given James a bit of a push back towards Araday, and then of course Horgan moved right out of the way for Araday at the hairpin, which has given him a chance to close up as well. So it's phenomenal work for those guys. But we've seen Daniel Barnett is now in P10 from Kai Banks.
You see Simon Bennett in the pit lane. It looks like unscheduled stop, and I didn't see any penalty for him, so maybe a mistake. And
yeah, it looks like a retirement for Bennett. It looks like a retirement, unfortunately.
Which is a shame. He was going quite good during the race, but probably just had enough of these conditions. And something that has gone under our radar, Daniel Barnett has managed to find his way past Kai Banks. So while we were talking about the guys in front, Daniel Barnett is finally, after what looks like to be the entire race, he's ahead of the Chevrolet. And there is not quite a big gap to Martin Schaefer, but also just 5 minutes to go. And he has to catch 4 seconds to the Maserati.
Yeah, it's tall order, but we've got Damien right on the arse of Claudio Allegria. But Allegria is catching up to Mad Al as well. But yeah, these Astons, they're doing a great job. Clinch trying to hold off Arjona in that Alpine, but unfortunately I've just seen a McLaren back marker unfortunately clobber into Allegria and Damien. But luckily no one seems to have lost out except for the McLaren I think that's Ben Kobe. But yeah, we've still got Radek Schuller right on the arse of Christopher Strepp, and these two, I didn't think it would still be this close. It's kind of weird to see two guys who's passing it out from start to finish for P1. We usually see a break, but these two are just going at it non-stop. Doesn't seem to be anything that's stopping them.
And this is the beauty of sim racing, that two guys can be so closely matched within each other. And we saw Verstappen stronger in the first part of the race and then just fell off a little bit towards the end of the stint. And same again, he was stronger in the first part of the second stint. Maybe a little bit of fatigue, you could say. Mid-stint that you are more aware of what you're doing at the first part, and then you just switch to the autopilot mode halfway through, that everything is going fine, and all of a sudden you find yourself being chased by the car behind.
Yeah, it's a tough one for those guys, but I mean, yeah, it's been brilliant to watch these two battling it out, these kind of titans in this race. Emo Plate, he was in there, he was in the mix, but I just don't think he had the pace that Radek and Christoph have. They seem to be pretty much ice and fire, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens between those two later on.
And looking Martin Hogan fighting with Jonas Dedene, fight deep in the grid for P25 between the Porsche and Mercedes. Dedene is trying to find a way around, using the title line through the left-hander, trying to slingshot himself out of the corner, then mount an attack. Looks like he's just going to stay behind, but also he has his brandmate Chater closely lingering behind, and he is gaining. Shobnik Chater is gaining onto these two, and any mistake, it will be a hefty price to pay.
Yeah, Horgan needs to be really careful, because if he makes a mistake, it could actually be two positions. He loses not just one. But yeah, Chatterjee needs to catch up to the back of Didin, so that he can actually capitalise on any moves that DD makes, because if he gets a nose on the inside, that could leave Horgan going massively wide and keep the door open for Javik to go through.
We can see them both just going from one side of the track to another side, fighting maybe the cars a little bit and the conditions, sliding around. See the Mercedes using wider line on the entry, and then was looking to just die down the inside, but was not close enough. See through the S section, a really great section of the corners. So he's maybe pushing the Mercedes over the apex. You can think that there is faster, but Horgan is just holding the line in the best places he can. Parks the bus on the apex, and then he can do anything and not get around.
Yeah, Horgan's doing everything he can to defend. It's absolutely fantastic stuff from him in terms of defending. He's doing all the moves that I would do. Parking on the apex, it's a bit of a dirty move, a bit of a dick move, but I mean, he's able to do it, and he's putting the car exactly where Dean wants to go, and it's absolutely brilliant stuff from Horgan. Further up the field in P1, P2 though, it looks like Radek Schuler's had a mistake because he's been knocked down 2 seconds behind Verstappen, so it looks like for the final lap, Verstappen just needs to keep it clean for the win of race 1 today.
Yeah, parking on the apex, you could say that thing, but also really dangerous, because if you slow down way too much, you need to also take into account that the driver behind is going to will want to go. So you need to be careful. If you park it too much, you just risk that the driver behind hits you, and then you're just spinning around. As we see currently the lap traffic being negotiated, looks to be Stepan Kotnik maybe trying to get around these guys. This is something that you can take advantage of as the car that is trying to overtake.
100%. It's lap traffic is brilliant. You can use it to your advantage when attacking. You can use it to your advantage when defending. Yeah, it goes both ways. A lapped car can use for the passing cars to their advantage. Same way around for the lapping cars to use for lapped cars to their advantage. But we're seeing Verstappen now taking it home right now as he goes through Cheetah.
Yeah. Just one more curve for Christopher Verstappen, final corner. And he rounds it out around the apex. And it will be a different winner for our race. It's Christopher Verstappen in the Chevrolet. The Dutchman has managed to make it. And he wins the first race at Kyalami in front of Radek Schuler. Something we have been thinking, can it be done? He will play for the Audi, finishes in the third place. Samuel Kruger in P4. James Lacey finishing in P5. Followed by Aaron Ariday, P6. Bill Varley still fighting on with Shimon Kotnik, so no final words being said yet. So Kotnik wide all over the grass, but it looks like Phil Varley is going to hold it over the line. It's Stepan Kotnik. He is just going to shove the car into the wall.
Oh, that's not how you finish a race.
In the start, Martin Schaefer in P9 and Daniel Barnett, after getting the position from Kai Banks, is rounding out our top 10 for our first race at Kyalami.
Absolute masterclass from Verstappen and Schuler. That was fantastic battling from start to finish for those two. But yeah, I've got nothing to say. That race was filled with what I expected from a wet race at Kyalami. Brilliant track, I absolutely love it. It's got such perfect flow. But we've still got Veach going round with Nielsen and Eugenie as well going round. So here we go. Here's Veach going round the final corner now with Eugenie behind. Still, they've still got another race to go, so don't go anywhere if you're still kind of sitting there thinking about going for a drink or something. Grab a drink, come back as soon as possible, because there's still final race today, which will be a 20-minute sprint. But yeah, Martin Pater correctly pointing out that this weekend, on Saturday, is the 6 hours of Silverstone that kicks off at 6 p.m. This Saturday. We've also got we've got the Tuesday Constructors stuff. There's also the race room on Fridays, which will soon become R Factor 2 on Fridays. So there's still plenty out there if you're interested in racing. We've also got the Monday races, which are kind of anyone's welcome to join. You can find details of that or any of the racing series on the RWB Discord. So if anyone out there does want to get involved, definitely check out the Discord, come along, chat, race, play other games as well. But yeah, brilliant community. And if you like what you're seeing right now, definitely come along.
We are taking a little bit of time to calm down, and drivers will have to be calming down themselves as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing that Van Kamen finished with 3 flat tires last race, so that's that's not what you're wanting, but yeah, fantastic stuff from him to bring it home.
Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton, he is someone who you have to fear. Man doesn't need no tires.
Definitely. But yeah, I'll do some more shameless plugging while we're here. If you're wanting to see the timings as we do, you can see pitwall.live. There is a link in the description. But we also, none of this would be possible without Racing Sim Tools and SimSock, who are the sponsors for the RWB racing. So definitely check them out. I definitely check out Racing Sim Tools for all your setup needs on Assetto Corsa Competizione, and also for their analyzing software as well. Been using that, absolutely phenomenal stuff. And yeah, SimSock. I mean, who doesn't love wearing socks on their sim? Brilliant stuff. So definitely check them out. It helps them, and it also helps RWB by checking them out. So yeah, brilliant stuff. But that's my shameless plugging done for now. So.
Do you know there's some crazy people out there who race barefooted? Or
I used to be one of those people.
How can you touch if you have metal pedals? How can you touch the metal with your feet? It just feels so uncomfortable.
Yeah, I've got a friend who he used to attach. It sounds really bad, but he used to attach feet warmers to his hand warmers to his pedals to try and heat them up. I used to put a blanket over my pedals to try and heat them up, but now I've seen the light, socks are the best way forward.
Or some crazy people in not racing shoes, but in real shoes.
Yeah, I can't race in shoes. I'm terrible. I'm so trash.
To be fair, it's so weird because driving normal car in shoes, alright, driving normal car in socks, it just feels so wrong.
It does. It feels so wrong. I hate it so much. But yeah, I can't wear shoes on the sim. I just cannot. It's like my shoes are made out of lead. But that could also just be my right foot. That's absolutely terrible and has no feel.
That's where the gloves are the only thing you can wear in both.
I think if I go to Tesco's wearing driving gloves, I might get looked at. But yeah, that's them underway now.
So once more to the start-finish straight. Can Emo Plate replicate what he did in race 1? He definitely had a little bit of practice, so maybe he'll try to do the same move again. We are waiting for the green lights. As the cars are moving and we are racing for our sprint race at Kyalami. Looks to be a good start this time for Radek Shula. Emo Plate with no big shenanigans into turn 1. Meanwhile, he will be trying to defend from Christopher Streppen. Looks Plate trying to go around the outside of Shula into turn 1. But that keeps his first place. Meanwhile, Christopher Streppen is going side by side with Emo Plate. Streppen manages to go down the inside and takes that position. Samuel Krug is slotting behind into P4. Maybe we'll try to go down inside into Sunset. No, Plate covers him. And his teammates slots behind. Meanwhile, it's Everyday Kompnik following suit. And Daniel Barnet James Lacey, as we see, they will going side by side with the Audi of Jakub Tarantino. Tarantino will be trying to not do that, as there is a little bit of contact as Will turns into the corner and doesn't realize that there is Audi there. And it causes a little bit of chain reaction as Darius has to check up behind Aston Martin. Again, we see Martin Schaefer dropping down a little bit from his starting position. Now he's going side by side with what looks to be Kai Banks. Oh, excuse me. As my voice is starting to fade away a little bit, this Kai Banks. As there was a little bit of contact between them, but nothing major. So both drivers managing to keep the cars in a straight line. We can see Silva trying a little bit move on Schaefer as we have the trio of Ginetas in a formation, Ferdinando Silva followed by Simon Bennett and Mag Al. And Mag Al defending from Emil Sjöblom. Sjöblom has the outside in the final corner. And as there was a contact, there are cars spinning around. It looked to be one of the Audis. I think it's Phil Varley who is currently dropping down through the order. I think Phil is just dropping down.
Yeah, it was Phil Varley, Burley, and yeah, it's just. It also looked like Ben Kobe got involved as well, so that's just unfortunate for those guys. There was also an incident between Dean and G Lenz, but luckily those guys, it looks like they sorted out on track. As we saw Lenz, well, I saw Lenz waiting for him, so that's always good to see that they've kind of settled for differences out on track rather than driving off. But Emily Plate, it looks like he's lost out again and has been relegated to P3 behind Christoph Verstappen again.
And as I was trying to point out, Jakub Tarantino, he had a really great start to the first race. Maybe he'll try to replicate that and redeem himself in the sprint race, but again in P19, a tough task, but he has shown that he can get by other drivers. It also each window that needs to be upheld in this race. Yeah, it'll be something to think about, because I immediately dropped away from a fight that was almost going to happen. This one was looking at. It was Aston Martin of Alasdair Clinch trying to go down the inside, but meanwhile, thinking of going down the inside, Jakub Tarantino dives really aggressively down the inside of Javier Eugeni, and it did not leave him too much room there, but Tarantino saw enough of width that was just Audi R8 and went down the inside, got the position. As we see, what looks to be Simon Bennett in Audi pointing the wrong way. It looked to be Simon Bennett, the Audi, not Simon Bennett. Who was that?
Yeah, it's an absolute mess.
Oh, that was Daniel Barnet, I think. Yeah,
Daniel
Barnet.
Barnett. It looks like Horgan as well. Absolute mess back there.
He managed to collect the Mercedes himself, and Barnet was in top 10. Currently looking at the back of the grid after probably climbing the sausage curb as everybody else is doing.
Yeah, there's only so much that a GT4 car will tolerate. It's a lot softer than a GT3. It tends to roll more, it can absorb the bumps more, but that sausage that cheats on the inside, it's absolutely brutal, and even these cars suffer going over it. But we've also got Veach and Nielsen battling it out as Nielsen goes for the inside. The outside, but he doesn't quite make the move stick. But we've also got on screen, or had on screen, Sebastian Kudnik and James Lacey, but these two, they've been rubbing it out for the past 3 or 4 corners. But it looks like Nielsen's finally got past Veach with a little bit of a love tap, but you know, no love lost, I think, between those two. Those two are still having a great battle through to the end, I reckon.
Well, those two have been battling during the entire race 1, so I think they fancy each other for also race 2, as VF is currently down the inside, but not having the overlap on Nielsen to mount a move. Meanwhile, Emil Sjöblom in a sandwich of Algeria and Clinch. but more or less looking behind him on the Aston Martin driver. As Silverstone decides to go into the pit lane, so does Damien Wilk. Meanwhile, at the top, again, same thing that happened in the previous race, Verstappen having a good speed at the start of the race and stint, but not enough to get by Radek Šula, so maybe again the strategy will be a part of this. But let's say Šula would have definitely learned something from the previous race being out-strategized by Verstappen. Maybe he will try to go for the earlier pit stop this time if the opportunity arises, or maybe trying to just respond as fast as he can. That Alpine is not looking healthy, that is currently just driving around. That looks to be Phil Varley. Just going probably till the end, trying to survive next 30 minutes.
Yeah, there's not long to go for these guys. I mean, the pit window is still open. It will close about 2-3 minutes before the end of the race, so they can kind of pit whenever they want at this stage. James Lacey's still holding the back of Sebastian Kudnik. He tries to get him for cutback, but no. Lacey just doesn't have the power. That Mercedes is so strong out the corners. The Porsche, it's not as slow. This GT4 Porsche, it's not as slow as the GT3 counterpart in terms of straight line speed, but you can see him now. He goes for a late move, but unfortunately taps the back of Kudnik. But he does the right thing of waiting for Kudnik to get back on track and underway so he can continue this battle. Right thing to do, very gentlemanly, but yeah, it's just unfortunate it happened. But yeah, it looks like Phil Varley in the pits as well. I wonder if Phil Varley's unfortunately retired from the race. But we've still got Christoph Verstappen right on the arse of Šula, as you can see now from Burley's screen after getting lapped by the race leaders. But yeah, Christoph Verstappen, MO plates, they're still hounding the back of Radek, and it's going to be a long time for those guys to try and figure out a way past him, because we saw last race it took Verstappen a natural undercut, well, an overcut effectively, to get past Radek, and I don't think Radek's going to make the same mistake again. I think he's going to try and pit at the same time as Verstappen. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one for those guys. But yeah, looking at Aaron Araday, he's sitting pretty in P5, but Kudnik's still under pressure from James Lacey, and actually their fighting has allowed Kai Banks and Martin Schaefer to catch up. And yeah, Claudio Allegria still out in P10. He's kind of a bit back, but he's still under attack from Aston Clinch as well in that 4-2-0 Aston Martin. But yeah, this battle between Kudnik and Lacey is going to be going on for a long, long time, I reckon. It doesn't look like they're going to be stepping down anytime soon.
Well, you'll need it to be in long time. Just a blast from the past, more like currently. And you'll have to make your moves quite fast in these sprint races. You don't have enough time to just sit back and analyze what the other driver is doing. But sometimes you are trying even your hardest and there is no opportunity that arises. Meanwhile, Šula, the gap is hovering still around from 0.3 to 1 second. It takes only just a little bit for the gap to go down, but also Samuel Kruger in P4 not far away from these three. So if something were to happen, Kruger and Plate, they are in dangerous positions compared to the top two. They are going into the pit lane, and so is James Lacey. So that will be interesting to see. If the pit stop is going to be the way to go for Lacey, it was the better strategy in the first race. So we will be thinking if Stepan Kotnik is going to respond to the Porsche and dive right now to cover his 6th place, or will he just keep driving and see what he can do?
Yeah, I think James just wanted clean air from Kudnik. Being stuck behind him, it's not going to help his lap times, especially if he can't get past. But looking at Emil Schaublon, he's got Mad Owl and Silver behind. Well, he's got Silver ahead, and Mad Owl behind him, and that's going to be a tough one for him. But yeah, time screens for me are looking a little bit different to what we're seeing on track. Because you've also got Veach and Allegria claiming they're behind. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one for those guys trying to get any move past Schaublom, because he's not a slouch. He knows what he's doing when he's out on track, and we'll see what happens with those guys. But yeah, it's a trio of Ginettas behind them. Those guys, they just don't want to split up, do they? They're just sitting pretty right behind Schaublom, and yeah,
like a pair of ducks just behind Big Mama Duck.
yeah.
Following but also the other Ginetta of Simon Bennett not being far from these, just 2 positions ahead. But you can see Silva trying to get by the BMW. But Silva is making the beam as wide as he can in order to keep his position.
Well, it's interesting with the trio of Ginettas because you've also got a trio of Chevrolets behind those Ginettas. You've got Veach, Eugenie, and Allegria, all 3 in a Chevy, right behind in P21 through to P23. So it's kind of interesting how these same make cars have grouped up so far. But yeah, I wonder if they're just going to try and attack Schaublom and try and get past. But Lacey's now under attack from Lenz, so we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, James getting past. It looks to be lap traffic as he was fighting Stepan Kotnik, and I think that if Kotnik coming out of the pit lane, I believe him in front of James Lacey. So the undercut not being the way to go for Porsche driver, but also losing time in the traffic that we can see the Maserati that is behind him. Now they are back at the point they have started. So Lacey probably have to make the move on the track.
Yeah, it did not go his way for that. The undercut sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But unfortunately for James, it didn't work out, and he's going to have to do it the old-fashioned way if he wants to get past Sebastian. But yeah, looking back at Simon Bennett, he's still attacking the back of Lenz, but he's also got Damien behind him, with Tarantino behind Damien, and then Clinch trying to take some pressure off Damien by attacking Tarantino. It's a proper train here. We'll see how it pans out as it goes on, but it looks like it's a proper long train, and these guys, they just don't want to back out whatsoever. Bennett's still trying to take the outside line on going in. Damien chooses, you know what, I'm going to go around the outside as well and follow you through. So I think these guys are just going to wait until the last minute before they attack. But of course, Lenz in this, at the Lenz and Schaublom at the head of this train, those two haven't pitted yet, so they're effectively holding people up, which, as I've said before, it's not a bad thing, but we've got a mix of lapped cars, cars that haven't pitted, and cars on the leader's lap, all trying to battle it out, so it's a proper mess over here. But we're seeing two going into Cheetah. It just squeezes through. It was lucky for Damien to squeeze through without any damage, but that's two Maseratis going into the pits now together, of Lenz and Matt Schaublom going in together. But we still see Bennett, so that's given him a little bit of breathing room from Damien Wilk.
This is something you really love to see, cars everywhere around the circuit, strategy being point of it, and at some point nobody even knowing who they are racing. This is only a sprint race, but sometimes in the endurance races you are just driving on a circuit and all of a sudden you see a car that is on the same lap as you, but you're thinking, who is that? I never saw them. They're stuck thinking, am I racing them? Am I not racing them? Should I let him by? Should I not let him by?
Well, unfortunately for Damien, Tarantino's managed to get past him, so that's now Tarantino up in P12 ahead of Damien and Alistair. And it looks like Damien's kind of sticking to the outside of Sunset there to try and let Alistair have a go at passing Tarantino and get the position back for Aston Martin. But yeah, fantastic stuff for Tarantino to get past him, and now he's on the hunt for Simon Bennett and Kai Banks ahead.
And Jakub, he has been slowly making ground. We saw him down, it was P19 I think at the start. As really wild, not the first time we saw someone going wide through that corner, and Alistair Clinch is trying to capitalize on that. But no grip around the outside in the hairpin. Tarantino, just another case of trying to bite off a little bit more, as we see everyone, literally everyone, in the pit lane at the same time. Radek Šula, Christopher Strepen, Emo Plate, Samuel Kruger, everyone from the top of the race speeding at the same time. So any strategy we were thinking about is completely thrown out of the window. And it will be the old-fashioned way to finish out this race. Just over 4 minutes to go. It would be maybe 4 or 3 laps remaining. And Radek Šula is back where he left off before the first race. And I think he's really comfortable in that P1 at this point. Christopher Strepen, that would have to be a really huge amount of pressure from him to force Šula into any kind of mistake.
Well, I've just seen James Lacey. He's managed to get past Sebastian Kutnik at long last for him. He's managed to pass Kutnik for P7 right now. Sorry, P6. So fantastic stuff for James to get past Kutnik. But yeah, it's still an ongoing battle for Simon Bennett trying to catch up to the back of Kai Banks and pass him. So I go through Sunset now. Seeing on screen James Lacey going around on track. I might have misspoke when I said just now, because I think it might have been 2 minutes ago, but that's my bad. But we've still got Simon Bennett hounding the back of Kai Banks, so those guys are still batting out as they both drive off track. But that's given Simon Bennett the chance to go past. You see now Kai Banks returning back onto the track. So that's Bennett now up in P9, with Kai Banks going off track there for P10.
Yes, we can see it from the replay. Drivers have been really pushing the limits of that particular corner. Probably my favorite bit of the circuit. You could call it the chicane, the S. It's a really awkward type of a corner, but it is really rewarding if you get it right and just slingshot out through the second apex. But to be fair, the entire circuit, the Skiani, is a great motorsport venue.
It's a brilliant track. It's definitely one of my favourite, if not my absolute favourite track that the GT cars race at on the Circos Contizioni. But yeah, we've got Radek Šula and Christopher Strepen going very close next to each other. Not sure about that flashing, Chris. Not sure you're allowed to do that, but
that's a little bit of fun.
Yeah, a little bit of fun, but yeah, that's now Radek Šula trying to get out the inside, going to T1, but of course gives Christoph the inside for the next corner, and yeah, that's him shutting him out. A little bit of love tap, but you know, Robin's racing.
Yeah, and as I've been saying, it would take a lot of pressure from Verstappen. Well, the pressure has managed to come back, but Verstappen also managed to lose the lead again as we were going through the replay, so maybe the other replay will show us what has happened. He managed to get the lead. And just few corners later, Christopher Strepen has thrown it out of the window.
Yeah, he just went a little bit wide.
But it was also beautifully orchestrated. Oh, and yeah, just turns into Radek Šula.
There might be one for the stewards, but I think we could see this was coming between those two. They were so heated in battles, something was bound to give between those two. But we've got Kai Banks now trying to defend off Alistair Clinch, while still chasing down Tarantino as well. It's still the two Astons trying to hound Kai Banks, but it looks like Kai he's not backing down, as we see an Audi getting very far out of the way. That looks like a mistake from Tarantino.
As we saw from Christopher Strepen, he managed to force the error from Radek Šula and get into the lead, but then also Radek Šula, same way, orchestrated the switchback really beautifully in and out of the sunset corner. And also a little bit of mistake from Strepen after getting the lead. So that sees Radek Šula getting back into the first place. And Strepen, he might be a little bit annoyed that he managed to make the move on the track finally, but didn't manage to hold it long enough.
We've got Radek Šula now on his final lap of this race this evening. Absolute brilliant stuff between Verstappen and Šula. They might be a little bit of beef afterwards, but he's still Verstappen. His race isn't over. He's still got Emo Plate and Kruger behind him. So he's not out of the woods yet. He's still up to his neck in it, trying to hold off these two. Because I think if he even makes a slight mistake, they're both going to pounce on it. But yeah, still looking
into the hairpin. Verstappen looks to be far enough from our plate. A little bit of slipstream going down into the left-hander. But it looks like Christoph has the second place firmly in his hands. Just a few corners to go in today's race. But it has been Radek Šula in the sprint race, leading for the entirety of it, not giving anyone a sniff of the first place for too long. Losing the lead, but managed to grab it back. It goes out of the final corner. It's Radek Šula winning the sprint race at Kyalami, with Christoph Verstappen coming in second place and Emo Plates. After what happened in the first race, third place must be a good feeling for him in a finish. Samuel Kruger finishing in P4, Aaron Eriday in P5. James Lacey tried his best but could not catch Aaron Eriday. Shimon Koutnik meanwhile in P7. Martin Schaefer, after falling down, has risen back into P8. Simon Bennett, after DNF in race 1, has managed to get himself a beautiful P9, and Alasdair Clinch, also a little bit under the radar, finishes out and rounds out our top 10. As drivers go celebrating on the outskirts of the corners. I'll try to maybe get someone from the drivers for a small talk after the race. So I managed to drag down Radek Šula. Radek, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Hello. So how was the racing from your point of view? Race 1, you were leading for the most part of it and lost the lead during the pit cycle. How was this from your point of view?
Well, it was really close all race, but I had a bad lap. Bad lap.
Yeah, bad in lap.
Yes, bad in lap before the pit stop, so that decided the race, I think.
But you were hounded during the entire race by Christoph Verstappen. Was it also a little bit of pressure from him that you have to stay in front after he tried the undercut?
Well, it was pressure all race. Or first race or second race, it was really close. He's getting better and better, so I'm really looking forward to another races.
And also we see the championship. You have quite a comfortable lead. How are you feeling after today's race?
Well, I think we are same. I think my lead is the same after this round, so I'm glad I didn't have had any disconnect this time. So it's really nice.
All right, thank you. We'll be looking forward to seeing you on the racetrack again.
definitely. Congratulations today as well.
I'll maybe try to get our second place if I can get in. Does not look to be there. Let me take Beanster for a little bit of chit chat. Hey, RWB Beanster, how was the racing?
I just can't get the pits right.
Yeah, you've been lucky because we saw that. What was that? What was the pit entry, mate?
Yeah, I might have tried to avoid somebody in the pit lane and then got too keen, span it, and then just shit my pants and decided to bail to the pit. You know.
Yeah, there's been beautiful pirouettes, but you redeemed yourself kind of in the second one. With
Yeah, got it back.
P9. It was quite a bit of Ginetta gang there, wasn't it, on the racetrack? There's been all 4 of you within, 5 seconds, maybe?
Yeah, it's tough. Got to get past Mad Al first.
But it looks to be a good point score for the Ginetta team, isn't it?
Team G, as we're known.
Well, you guys are all on the same team. Do you guys have any team orders, or are you guys just going for
Just
whoever's
beat
back
Mad
and
Al.
win?
Just beat Mad
Just
Al.
beat him? Yeah, it's not a bad strategy. He probably isn't a fan of that strategy, but yeah, it seems like you were quite comfortable today following him all the way around. Maybe next time, maybe next week we'll actually, after the break, we'll see you hopefully get past them.
I'd say from a championship point of view, I just want the Ginettas to beat the Alpines because they're the super lightweights, aren't they?
Yeah, it's very. The Alpine's such a weird car as well. I expected it to be quite bad on the straights, like the Ginetta, but it'd be super comfortable in the corners. But that thing is just rapid everywhere, it seems.
Yeah, it looks it.
All right, I'll throw you back to go and chat with the racing driver comrades. Thank you for a little bit of insight on how was the race.
Cheers.
Thanks.
So that was RWB Constructors Cup. It was me, Racer Soul, and the chief commentating for you, and we are looking to seeing you here or RWB International next time.